next guest. So Nirav Desai from HTC. He will be by himself, I believe, today. Okay, so I'm going to hand over and please. Thank you very much.
So unfortunately, Vinay got called away on a family emergency, so you'll have the unfortunate of just hearing from me today. Real quick, why are Vinay and I presenting? We're planning on presenting this talk together. We've been working closely, Booz Allen has been working closely with HTC for quite a while, looking at enterprise deployments of immersive solutions in general. Vinay was presenting more on the technology barriers and what's on the horizon, and I was going to speak a little bit more about the application of technology. That said, we'll move forward. Next slide. Well, let's start back to the dawn of civilization. Start at cave drawing. Ever since we started communicating with each other, we've been communicating in 2D. Cave drawings, the printing press, HTML. It's all two-dimensional communication that we use to articulate our thoughts, codify them, academic papers, white papers, web pages. Immersive technology is the first time in human history that we can really, leaving sculpture aside, that we can really communicate ideas in 3 dimensions. Think about what that allows. And this talk is really go through that, what that allows and how this will change the fundamentals of how we work. Well, you guys are all here for any augmented and virtual reality conference. You know the growth metrics that are proposed, are projected in the VR industry. What I also want to highlight on this slide is the growth that's expected in AI. And the real power around this new interface is how these two technologies come together in a meaningful way. 84% of education can benefit from some form of AI, but that goes through all sorts of sectors. And I'll run you through a few examples as we go through. What do I mean by an immersive transformation? We're talking about intuitive, persuasive, and natural computing. And so what AI allows, added to immersive content, is the ability to interact with computers in a natural way, in a way that doesn't require a change in mental focus, a change of content. Now, we've been through several waves of computing, and each wave has had a different killer app, core company that are driving that wave, and most importantly, a way of what we outsource to the computer. Mainframes, of course, it was basic computation. As we moved through PCs, it was content development, PowerPoint, spreadsheets, Excel, Word, etc. Mobile started search and research, so we're outsourcing our research. And with immersive technology, we're at the precipice of outsourcing our decision support and creativity support. And that's going to be a theme throughout this, and I want to lay that out up front because that's, when you think about how we work, think about what the computer augments and takes off our cognitive load. So let's play a game of bingo. We all hear these buzzwords all the time, and they're largely independent. What does photogrammetry have to do with natural language processing? Well, really not much. And we go to these conferences, we talk about, we read white papers, and we see this buzzword of unconnected terms. This transformation is uniting these terms in a meaningful and useful way. And we'll start with AR and VR. That's the core interface. It starts visual. As we progress from VR for the enterprise, we're going to start doing a lot more augmented and mixed reality. But what will make that successful, in the same way that I talked to my friend over here, and I point to an object, he knows what I'm looking at because based on the context of where we are, tracking my eyes, seeing what I'm looking at, and gestures. In the same way, a computer needs to be able to understand that level of context for it to be a natural experience. Computer vision, location-based AI is all coming along to make that happen. Now let's take that a step further with extending sensory input. IoT, wearables, brain-computer interface. All of that will feed into to make a richer experience. And finally, chatbots, voice, gesture, all of that further augments this and gives more context to the interaction. Combining essentially the movie Her with Minority Report. Next slide. So let me lay out a structure for how we think about this from a type of enterprise activity. And this slide, I'm going to start with the darkest section, the training activity. That's really kind of where we are right now, and specifically with products like Devise, and we are right at that core of the bottom left quadrant. Individual training, and it's in areas that reduce cost, where training on physical hardware can be dangerous or just expensive. Moving up the chain is planning activities. That's where you see a lot of the CAD use cases, modeling architecture before actually constructing the building, but a number of other areas. And finally, operational frontline activities. A lot of what you're seeing with the augmented maintenance. Last speaker talked about. Next slide. The different technologies have a sweet spot in different areas. I don't like to think of augmented or virtual reality as being competitive with each other, but more that they're designed for different use cases. And now I've mapped some of those buzzwords to what it helps facilitate. There's a few additional up here, but when you really think about barriers to adoption, how technology can be applied for a meaningful way, you have to think about both the technology and how it's going to be applied on what platform. And I'll go through a number of examples here, but I want to lay this out kind of as a framework for how we think about enterprise adoption of this immersive technology. So, what is immersive technology? Now, you guys are at this show. I'm sure I don't have to spend too much time on this. But I want to lay out this divide just for set the context. Virtual reality is about the digital environment. It's looking at, you have the luxury here of being able to model the whole entire world rather than having to spatially map an environment and then overlay on top. That also explains why virtual reality is advancing faster than augmented reality. Here's a few examples of what Volkswagen is doing. They're actually using a combination of VR and AI for a number of tasks, from training, logistics planning support, design reviews across geographies, and then also for the marketing experience in showrooms. Now, VR has gotten really good at this. Let's look at where we'll go from here. AI. Now, I've highlighted about 5 different types of AI that are relevant to immersive experience. Clearly, the top is pattern recognition and computer vision. For augmented reality use cases, being able to identify objects, spatially map an environment, and understand how those objects behave is critical. But then you also need advances in machine learning so that the AI can actually learn while it's operating, start with a basic training environment, and continue to refine itself in operation. Natural language processing and speech recognition become critical because we are verbal people, verbal beings. We communicate through language, and ideally we communicate with our computer through language. And finally, an expert system that understands the domain and the detailed domain information that's relevant to the task being performed. All of this comes together to enhance that experience. Now, a few examples of how this is being done right now. Booz Allen has a product called Enforce Field, which is using computer vision to detect remote objects, to protect the perimeter, actually giving security professionals early visibility into approaching drones to secure a sporting event or a base. AI Solve is doing some great work around tailoring for building medical room trainers, trauma center trainers, but at the level of competency of the trainee, they're adjusting the difficulty of the training experience. Now let's move on to edge computing. I'm going to go into a number of these examples down the line a little bit as well. Now we talked about sensory extension. We're looking at, when you think about the potential of immersive, think about what the Fitbit can do for a frontline operator. Think about temporary tattoos that can act as sensors. Brain-computer interfaces, I absolutely love. They offer the ability to both monitor and understand thought patterns to use as input devices, but also provide a response that's quicker than the ability for us to it kind of feels like it's predicting what you're going to do. And then I highlight down here at the bottom the Connect for Azure, just to highlight computer vision and IoT. The whole domain is really pushing forward the ability to deploy remote sensors, extend our sensory network. We think of our 5 core senses, but we need not limit it to that. You could actually have and I'll go to a drone example, but you could have a drone operating in a remote location and feel that response, thus extending your senses. Two examples of this, Nirav Desai company, absolutely love them. They have built the first brain-computer interface driven VR gaming experience. And then Valoran's HoloBeam allows you to make telepresence real. We actually have this set up in our office in Seattle, between 2 offices, and I can holographically project myself to talk to our developers, and we do that regularly. Now, going back, and this is probably really pretty small, going back to that framework I talked about, training, planning, operations. I'm going to go through a few examples of what the state of the now is and where this is likely to go. First person, interactive immersive training. We're using HTC Vive to train airmen on how to safely exit a burning plane. We're also looking at ways to help prepare paratroopers to understand the mechanics of jumping out of a plane before they ever step foot in one, or the one that are going to jump out of. Greatly improving worker safety, helping them develop the muscle memory before they ever step in a plane. Now, I take that to the future. The Army TRADOC is looking at a synthetic training environment. They're looking at ways you could connect multi-user, cross-geography, multi-platform environments to actually run an exercise through a variety of VR technologies, bringing together a variety of interfaces to make our soldiers more safe. Flipping over to healthcare, OSO has a great surgical trainer. There's a number of surgical trainers out there. It's a big area right now. What you really need to do, I wouldn't let a surgeon cut into me unless I understood that I had muscle memory developed. Because it's not just looking and understanding, it's actually feeling the haptic response. So a company like Haptex is working on a glove that lets you feel pressure, temperature, and piercing sensation with amazing fidelity. And this is only going to advance. So you think about how training scenarios will become more real, allow you to develop that tactical memory to better get more out of the experience. Now, when we think about planning, this is actually kind of an emerging frontier right now. Dirt Environmental and a number of furniture and construction companies are looking at ways that you could plan a building, interior space, custom order furniture, what have you, based on virtual reality selection of material. Where I see this going, and now we think about IoT and how that's going to integrate. Remember that scene from Jurassic Park? It's a Unix system. It tells you everything. That concept can be real. We're not far, not the Unix part. I mean, but the ability to fly into an actual building and understand the sensor, where the sensor network is, what devices might be down, might be up, actually managing an operations center in 3D holds a lot of promise. And the ability to immediately change perspective from first person, I'm in the operating center, to I understand what that sensor is and what this view of the world is, can be really powerful. Now let's look at, Booz Allen right now is working with the Navy to develop the first VR mission planner. So we're actually mapping a variety of data that goes into planning submarine missions in VR to reduce the cognitive load and better communication across analysts on deciding on what the mission plan is. We actually had you take that now a few steps forward and you move towards towards Avatar, where you have, again, that 3D operations center and then the ability to telepresent, locate yourself into a remote drone, see what that drone is seeing, understand, and we've actually had some conversations with about after Hurricane Harvey, looking at what could have been done to ascertain water levels in a disaster scenario through a telepresence drone. So all of this will come together. The question is how and when, and what's the right best to make it work. Next slide. On the operations side, again, grows out of training. Raymond is working with Free Range Games to develop a forklift trainer, looking at ways that you could train forklift operators to be more safe before they ever sit in a forklift. Again, this will extend on to remotely operating mining vehicles, or integrating of autonomous car-based AI into a more enhanced experience. On the another side, Tactile is doing some great work around visualizing CAD drawings, a variety of technical working documents into 3D. Now that's going to grow through over-the-shoulder type remote subject matter experts into the Jedi Council, of getting together and actually having holographic meetings together. Next slide. Finally, the key takeaways. Take on me. Taking 2D and turning it into 3D. How do we turn this comic book of communication that we live in right now and bring it into real life? As you're making investment decisions, as you're thinking about where to go next, think about how do you make interfaces that embrace this transformation, change the way we think about the world, that make interfaces more intuitive, pervasive, and natural, to drive that 3D first experience, rather than taking your 2D and making it 3D. And questions? Either efficient basic first inner training. So there are studies on this. I don't have them offhand. Yeah, but it has been shown that through virtual reality you would get more knowledge transfer. And from our anecdotal experience, we certainly get better results in terms of performing a operation checklist. People would just naturally move their arms to the right place or move